Okay, so today we're going to talk about victims number 8 and 9 of Theodore Robert Bundy. Now remember, one of the victims that we have in here survived, still a victim, without a doubt. Just because he didn't murder them doesn't mean they're not a victim. So 8 and 9, this is a complete deviation. If you remember back to the last video with Ann Hawkins, and then was it Brenda Ball? Brenda Ball was a deviation from the norm. Ann Hawkins, although brazen in an alleyway close to her sorority house, same MO. Crutches, cast, that ruse. So in this 8th and 9th victims in the Lake Sammamish, brazen. I use that word a lot for what Bundy does. He is getting so comfortable now. This happened on July 14th, 1974. So we are 7 months in to his killing spree. And in each one, he is becoming more comfortable, more efficient. Think of him as a vocation, an electrician. Okay, when you first start out, you kind of figure out what you can do, what not. But as you do it, you learn. You learn, hey, I can't touch these two wires together. That's bad. I can't use this fuse because it'll blow. Those type of things is how I correlate this thought process to Ted Bundy. He is growing as a serial killer. The evolution. He knows what to do, what he can take a chance on. You have to remember what he's done already. He's broken into people's homes, abducted them, not just killed them in their homes, taken them from there to have time to do what he wants. And then he evolved from that to, hey, you know, that's too much physical exertion. I'm just going to get them to my car. Use this ruse. They're vulnerable. This is easy. He's evolving into almost a perfect serial killer. Today's episode, though, we're going to learn that he is starting to not unwind, but take more risks. The reasoning is because the urge. Again, we talked about that in the last episode with the consensual sex with Ball. That didn't fill the urge. He had to incorporate violence into his sexual gratification. So on July 14th, 1974, he goes to the Lake Sammamish and he attempts to abduct several women, but ultimately he abducts 2. He abducts Janice Ott. She's 23. She was a probation worker for a juvenile home in Seattle. She was there relaxing. Witnesses said they saw Bundy approach, arm in a sling. Hey, can you help me? I have to there's different reports, tie up my boat to my car or unhook the boat from the car. But the ruse involved, hey, I can't, my arm is hurt, I'm in a sling, I heard it playing racquetball, and I can't hook my boat or unhook my boat. Can you help me? Several women said no, that they couldn't. One, Janice Graham, even walked Bundy, or Bundy walked her all the way to his vehicle. When she didn't see a boat, she questioned it. And he says, oh, it's in my parents' house. It's just, you know, up the road a little bit. And she said, no, I can't go. Obviously, spared her life. Okay? And he was very polite about it. Okay, no problem. I should have told you. But it didn't stop him, did it? Comes back. Finds Janice Ott. She is known to be very helpful. And again, he's preying on these vulnerabilities of women. And so she helps him. She's missing. This is at 12:30. Bundy comes back. He comes back around 4. And Denise Nazlan is with a group of individuals. She says that she has to go to use the restroom. She's never seen again. Witnesses again see her talking to this guy with his arm in a sling. Bundy again. Bundy abducts her. This is crazy. 2 girls on the same day, within 4 hours apart, he abducts in this not secluded place where, you know, Ann Hawkins, where she, there was nobody around, although it was an alleyway that was close to many homes. This is 40, what did I read? Like 40,000 people were at this lake. It's a huge lake. It's 512 acres. There was a ton of people there. Yet he felt comfortable enough to abduct not once, but twice. Now later on in life, you know, again, when Bundy is getting ready to be electrocuted for his crimes, I still find it crazy that the electric chair is a form of death. I mean, but regardless, he said that he abducted both girls. Now his confession as to what happened is this. At first, he said he abducted Ott, took her back to this abandoned cabin, which was only a couple miles from the lake. He handcuffed her, tied her up there, went back and got Denise Nazlan, brought her back, raped and killed Denise in front of Ott, and then killed her. He later, I believe, recanted that confession, but that was originally what he gave. Now, who's to say? I mean, I'm a little suspicious because the 4 hours between the abductions, if it's only a few miles away, he's got to be doing something for 4 hours. In my opinion, he's raping and killing Janice Ott for those 4 hours. And probably disposing of her body. Then he comes back and abducts Denise Nazlan. Now the big question for me is why? Well, there's many theories, but for me, my opinion is all you have to do is look back to his previous victim, Brenda Ball, right? And the consensual sex, and then it turns, that's not good enough, I have to kill her. Well, why? Because the need, the urge is not satisfied. Therefore, he has to kill again. And what better place to do it at this smorgasbord in his mind of women, young co-eds, dressed in bikinis, 40,000 people. He's just done it. Let's do it again. My urge is not fulfilled. So he goes back and gets Naslund. I don't think it had anything to do with wanting 2 girls at one time. There's some theories about that. Bundy's original confession, how he made one watch. Although you have to give it some validity, but he later recanted. I just believe the opportunity was there. Those girls was in his mind, that's like a fantasy overload. And he went and struck again to quell that thirst that he had for sexual violence. Now we'll get into later on down the road about his blaming pornography, and I have my opinions on that. But his sexual urge here and tying that into violence comes out swinging in these abductions and these murders. Now, his ruse hasn't changed, right? His MO has not changed. He's still doing the thing with the sling. Because why? Why is he doing that? That's right. It's working. Why change up What's working? What's more important to him? Is it getting caught, or is it being successful to quench and quell that urge of his? Well, I think it's a 1A, 1B situation. 1A being, I'm willing to take risks in order to satisfy this urge. Then 1B being, hey, I'm not going to get caught. So in his mind, this ruse is working. It's easy. People are falling for it. I'm going to stick with that. Bundy's a very intelligent guy. Maybe not IQ-wise. I mean, obviously, he went to law school and he didn't do very well, but, you know, he went. He has some street smarts. It doesn't take a lot to realize, hey, what's working, I'm going to continue to use. And that's what he did. Now, what's different here? One thing that jumps out to me that's different is the dump site. Okay, Ott's and Naslin's remains were found on September 6, 1974. So 2 months after these abductions and murders, they're found. Remember, now, so they're found, but where they're found is the most important. They're found at the Issaquah dump site. It's another mountainous area not far from that lake. He's changed dump sites. Now, he did this with the previous girl, but nobody knows that yet, with Ann Hawkins. She is also not at Taylor Mountain. Remember, Taylor Mountain's where he's gotten rid of all the other girls. Now it's Issaquah. Why? Why change it up? I don't know. My initial response or thought to that was, well, it's closer to the lake. He doesn't want to drive with, you know, a dead body in the car. But we found that Bundy doesn't care, right? He abducted a girl from Oregon and drove her all the way to Taylor Mountain to dispose of her. So that theory can be thrown out the window. Only Bundy knows why he's changed dump sites. Maybe it's because, one, he obviously liked to go back and revisit and do things, necrophilia, with these bodies. At this point, in the summer, after 7 months, those bodies are going to be putrefied. They're going to give off horrible odors. It's not just going to be bones left. So maybe that throws him off and he decides to change. I don't know. But it's a possibility, right? He changes dump sites. So now we have 2 different dump sites. Remember, they still haven't found any remains yet on Taylor Mountain. That doesn't come for, what, another year? Till 1975? But they find this one in September. So, another key thing that happens here. Remember, there's so many people at this lake. One of the key things that happened is people overheard. Not only did they see this man in this sling approach, they saw his vehicle. Remember, one girl, he walked all the way there. She saw it, a VW Bug, brown, she said, light brown. But they overheard conversation. One person was a DEA agent who was off duty, who saw Bundy approach Janice Ott and overheard. He watched him walking down the beach talking to different individuals until Bundy got to almost in front of him to talk to Ott. And she wasn't very happy about going to help him. He said she had a frown on her face and she had her head down, like she didn't want to help. She was there to relax. But Bundy convinced her. Again, preying, and such a good talker, and preying upon the weakness of these women. But one of the most important aspects is they overheard him say, Hi, my name is Ted. As an investigator, that makes me smile, because that's a lead. The Volkswagen is a great lead, but now we got a name. And as smart as Bundy is, he's not smart enough to use an alias. He uses his real name. Why? Well, and you're going to see later on why this is important, because he changes that and then he uses an alias later on. But I know as working undercover for I don't know how many years, half of my career, 10 years was undercover. You always want a story, a name that is easy to remember, that you're not going to fumble with. So for instance, if I was going out on a drug buy and I was meeting drug dealers and they were going to sell it to me, they asked me my name, I would say Ken. Last name, I'd make up Morrison or whatever it is. But I always use the same first name. And the reason being is because if you're caught off guard, what's your name? Ken. It's second nature. You don't have to think about it. Well, Ted's the same way. In addition, his ego is so big right now that he can get away with anything. I'm just going to use my name, Ted. Well, it's going to come back to haunt him now. Now, I know the police are like, is he dumb enough to use his real name, or is it a fake name? Well, you got to track it down. So, what I would do, obviously you have two huge leads. Car, I'd be looking for anybody in the area, that has a Volkswagen Bug. And there was a lot of them during that time. Okay, you get a list of 1,000. Okay, how many are registered to a guy named Ted? Well, that goes from 1,000 to 400. Remember what I used to talk about all the time in my past videos is deduction. You're deducing possibilities to probabilities. And that's what you would do. That's how you start doing it. And I believe Keppel did that with more criterias, with receipts and stuff like that. But certainly, that's how you do it. So it's a big break, although it comes at such a huge expense. 2 girls on the same day. And again, I believe it's because he wasn't fulfilled. Now, Bundy had said that he had taken these girls to an abandoned cabin. So during my research, I found nothing else about it. I read such a great book, and I'm not sure what oh yeah, and I showed you guys this before. The Only Living Witness. The author here, Stephen Michaud and Hugh Ainsworth. Stephen is the one who sent me this book a few years ago, because he was going to speak at my, or I had asked him to speak at one of my conferences, but instead we got Kathy Kleiner, who we're going to talk about later on. I ended up reaching out to her. She was a surviving victim of Bundy. But what I'm getting at is such a good book because Bundy confesses. His confessions are in here. They're just in the third person, and you have to determine whether you want to believe him or not. But in this book, he says he took him to an abandoned cabin. Well, when I started researching, I couldn't find anything about this. It's almost like it wasn't followed up on. I'm sure somebody has, but I just didn't find it. But this morning, I did find an aerial map of the area in 1972, so 2 years earlier, and there was a label there for an abandoned cabin close to the dump site. So I might need do some clarity on that, but if that is true and there's abandoned cabin right there, hopefully police would have searched it for blood evidence and such, but maybe there's some credibility to his story. That too would be out of the norm. Every other victim he is taken in the woods in his car to a remote location and killed them. Why change it up and go to an abandoned cabin? How do you know that the people aren't going to be there? It's just too many risky variables. But then again, with Bundy, his risk reward to him is worth it. So it's very possible, but that's what took place. Look at some of my notes here. 2 women at the same time, why? And I explained that. In regards to that urge, we're going to see this again in Bundy. And I think it's going to be a continuing thread. This may be the first time that he killed 2 people, raped 2 people on one day. But I promise you it's not going to be the last. So again, you have to look at these events and say, well, why? And I think it comes back to the urge is not quenched. You know, he still has the thirst for this sex and violence. This set off a whirlwind of media. Susan Rancourt's murder, who was his 3rd victim, 4th victim. She came from a pretty good family system that had some money from what I researched. So unfortunately, that's how the media and stuff works, especially back then. You know, if you don't have no money and you don't get it's just a missing person. I've dealt with that in cases, with Don Miller case. You know, poor family, no money, no clout, they get no help. But somebody that does come from a wealthy family, you know, that has clout, the help. Well, this really got, and it wasn't anything to do with wealth. It was just, okay, we have a madman on the loose. We have these girls are going missing. 8 within the past 7 months, 2 in one day from a popular area now. Things are really starting to steamroll now. We've got the Hawkins girl that just went missing. You know, police are in, you know, they're into overtime. And that talk, that means, hey, we're going to stay and do everything that we can. We're going to form a task force. We got to find this guy. And they got leads here. So it's rolling, you know. And because of that, in the next episode, Bundy's really going to change some things up again. And the reasoning being, he's getting a lot of pressure. A lot of people looking for him here. Although he's living a normal life with his girlfriend Liz at this time and her daughter, you know, they suspect nothing really. Nobody suspects him. Okay? He's not a crazy person. He's a normal, charming guy. He liked to put off that he was more charming than what he actually was. Some people, like the author of the book that I showed you, could see right through it. You know, they thought it was disgusting because he would try to charm you. And that's what he did to all these women. Some of them picked up on it, some didn't. And that was Ted Bundy. So that was victims 8 and 9. The next video we're going to talk about, obviously, his change. What changed? Did his MO change? Did locations, dump sites, something changed big time. And it led to his downfall. So, till the next video, hey, Mains out.